we recording?
Yes.
Brennan, I want you to keep that in there.
All right. I'm Ben. This is Daniel.
I'm Daniel.
I think we're going to call it a bad podcast.
Bad podcast. That's Ben and Daniel.
We're thinking about chump chatter, but that's...
Chump chatter didn't stick to my ribs like a good meal does. You know what I'm talking about?
So who came up with bad?
He did, via Messenger.
Yeah. That was good. I like it. So now it's kind of like an ironic... We might actually be bad.
We are bad, but we're also
But we actually might be good.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to start doing a beer of the week. Okay. So the previous two times I had Corona and then Corona Familiar.
So it was both Corona.
And then this one's Modelo. You know what I just learned?
What?
I love Mexican beer.
No, you didn't just learn that.
You're right, I didn't.
Because you've told me that before.
The audience just learned that.
Yes.
All 44 of them.
Yeah. No, it was like 156.
Yeah, but subscribers.
Oh, 49. I'm looking at you.
Thanks everybody who watched the
thank you guys
first one, and then hopefully the second one because it's not even out yet.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys.
All right, we got a lot to talk about this time. It's not like we haven't talked a lot about the other times. Let me pull up what I had written down. You'd think I'd already have that pulled up. Oh my!
It's not like we're podcasting.
It's not like we're timed or anything.
Yeah. Well, we're actually not.
I want to talk about, first of all, a lot of people talking about limiting how long these should be. And you know what? I agree that people probably don't want to listen to us for 2 hours.
But if you do, you're the MVP. And also, if you have a commute to work, it just makes sense.
But the type of people that we're making this for is the people who listen to podcasts.
Right. And if you're not a podcast person, and I didn't used to be until earlier, like last year, but I like listening to a good, like, engaging podcast. And I like sitting, like, I'm actually sad when they end. I listened to one that was 2 hours and 46 minutes. And I was like, oh, it ended? I want to find another one. Like, I wanted it to be longer. So...
Yeah, so
if you're a podcast person, you'll get it. If you're not,
you're not. I mean,
you can become one.
It's not that we don't need to watch, but we have a vision of this being a longer thing. But I think what we will start doing is trying to get segments. So if there's certain topics we have that we think somebody might like, because we're gonna ramble. We already do ramble.
We're rambling right now.
We are
2 minutes in.
So yeah, we're gonna keep long podcasts. But hopefully we can start splitting and we'll release the whole video, I think. Mm-hmm. And then later on we'll
break it down into segments.
Do different clips.
Like Brendan, our amazing editor over here, will just, when he's editing, he'll just cut like a 15-minute, and then you label it as that exactly. Topic. Yeah.
So I like that. I mean, that's the direction we're thinking of right now. Which I'm happy that we finally have a name.
Bad podcasts.
Bad podcast. It's time for another bad podcast.
Yup.
So today you mentioned you wanted to talk about dreams.
Yeah.
And I said, hell yeah. And then as soon as you mentioned that to me, my mind was just flowing and like ideas just kept coming up. So the topics I want to at least brush over a little bit include dreams, evolution, taking action before a crime is committed. I'll elaborate on that. I wrote down Waco, but I meant Ruby Ridge.
But as it turns out, it relates to Waco.
It relates to Waco. Okay. First off, you had the idea for dreams. What were you wanting to talk about?
Just how crazy they are. So this morning, Ben called me. Well, I say morning, but it was like 1 in the afternoon.
It was your morning.
Yeah, and so.
But you're not an overnight worker. I mean.
No, I just went to bed ridiculously late, and I didn't work today. But Ben called me and woke me up, and I was actually having a dream when he woke me up, and it was in the dream. I was at Ben's house, and I had been at a friend's house, and they dropped me off here, but I left my Yeezys in their car, and I was so upset, but I wanted to talk to Ben so badly, so I came in and we were talking, and Ben was like, hey, tonight we have to talk about animals on the podcast. And then in real life, I get a phone call from Ben, and he was telling me tonight is the night we're doing a podcast. So it was just really weird. And I guess the reason I wanted that to be a topic is because, like, science doesn't really have an answer for what dreams are. We just kind of speculate about a lot of things. And they say, well, I'll get into what they say later, but it just had me thinking, like, I guess, why was I dreaming about that? Maybe I was thinking about it before I fell asleep. And they say, that can be it. Freud said that dreams were, they were a manifestation of what your like subconscious like wants are, and your
Yeah, he also developed the vibrator. Okay.
Did he really?
Yeah, this guy, he believed that basically every urge was like a sexual desire.
Yeah, I'm no Freud fan. I'm just looking at the data for what we know on dreams.
I'll talk about what I've heard. I mean, I've not studied on dreams or anything. I have no knowledge on them. But it is crazy. I read one thing that was talking about we sleep like at least a third of our life away. And scientists have thought that since you spend on the average of 20 years sleeping, that it should be considered an alternate reality because you spend so much time in this other world. And you know what, dude? I mean, I can see that. But some specific dreams that I remember distinctly as a kid. I remember one that I woke up terrified. We used to go to Louisiana every year for summer vacation. We used to go see some friends down there, and I remember they had a son. He was like 30 years old. I don't know, but he had a game. It was called Blazing Angels, I think. It was an airplane game. It was like a World War II airplane game. I don't know. It's been foggy. It's foggy. It's been a long time. And I remember waking up scared half to death that I was getting shot down. It was weird. It wasn't scary today's standards, but I remember waking up like terrified.
No, I understand.
And it was thundering so crazy. It was storming so bad, but I just have a memory of like going, wow, I cannot watch anything before I go to bed. I'm going to have a nightmare every time. And there's always I have like, and this will get into another thing. I've got memories of things, and I honestly can't remember if they were dreams or not.
Well, yeah, you can create memories. I think we've talked about that before, but
it's easy to create memories. Yeah. They're just, what is a memory? It's just an electrical impulse with a pattern.
Well, and that's what.
Do you have it pulled up?
I have notes that I wrote, but I don't know where I have it.
He told me he had notes on this stuff, and then he's like, "Well, by notes I mean I wrote them down on my mind. I just have to find them."
Well, it goes back to Freud. His ideologies on dreams suggest that dreams are a way to incorporate memories, like use them, I guess.
You know, I can agree with that.
Yeah, and they did a study on people. I don't know who they is because the article I was reading didn't say, but there was a study done, we can assume, on people who dreamt and who didn't dream. So they would wake people up before they reached REM sleep, which is rapid eye movement, which is where you dream the most. And those people who didn't get to enter that stage of sleep and therefore didn't dream, they had higher signs of tension, like increased tension in their life, higher signs of anxiety, depression, weight loss, lack of coordination, all that. And so Freud says kind of that dreams are a way to deal with life's issues. Like if something's bothering you and you can't really deal with it in your everyday life, that we use dreams as a way to cope with it, almost as like a coping mechanism. I don't know how true that is, but
I mean, I see it. I remember when I was younger, somebody was telling me that they didn't have dreams, but then I've heard that everyone dreams. It's just like in the first maybe 90 seconds of being awake that you forget almost all your dreams.
I barely ever remember my dreams. The only reason I remember this one is because you called me and it was relevant to what we're doing today. But I probably would have forgotten it.
But every time I wake up, I'm gonna go, wow, that was a crazy dream. I'm gonna remember that.
Mm-hmm. And you never do.
5 minutes later, I cannot recall it.
What's that about? Like,
how does your brain forget something so fast?
Yeah,
it's just to touch on last week. I still want to talk about. I still want to fully explain why I think life is really just a simulation, but not this week. It's gonna take a while.
That'll be a separate episode.
I need to get caught back up on like relativity in that two-slit theory, but dreams brings me into lucid dreaming and sleep paralysis. I grew up in a very like church-oriented religious home. So I believe the first time I experienced sleep paralysis that I was experiencing like a demon.
Really?
I was scared out of my mind.
You've experienced sleep paralysis?
I used to experience it all the time.
Really?
Yes. I remember I think this for the very first time I experienced it, my friend Paul was staying the night. You met Paul, right?
Yeah.
He was staying the night, and I remember waking up. I was laying on my side. I remember waking up And then next to my bed was like one of those little folding side tables, and I had a cup on it. And I remember opening my eyes, and I see the cup float up, and I'm like thinking, oh my God, what the hell? And then I couldn't move. And then it just started floating sideways. Well, it raises up, starts floating sideways, disappears into the wall. As soon as it disappears into the wall, I can move, and it's right back on the table. And I remember that was the very first time I ever experienced anything like this, and I was scared out of my mind. At the time, dude, I thought I was... My mom used to tell stories about things being in our home. Mm-hmm. That's another time. But, so I not necessarily believed in this stuff, because I also believe that what you believe is what your brain will see. Like, as soon as you believe in it, it is real. Life is simulation, you know? But that was one experience I remember. The second one that was very impressionable on me, like, I remember laying down, I was on my back in my bed, and I kind of like wake up and I look down. I couldn't, like, you can't move your head. Like, you really are paralyzed. And it only lasts for maybe 10 seconds, if that. I remember waking up, looking kind of down, and there's this, like, it looked like a demon wolf. It was like a wolf standing on my bed just looking at me, but it was gargantuan. Like, it was huge, like a dire wolf.
Really?
But it was like, zombified. It was like rotten flesh. Dude, it was... And it was just looking at me. Just about 10 seconds goes by, and all of a sudden it's gone, and I can move. And it's not like you see it just vanish, and it's just gone. You know, like a transition between an image, like when you're doing a slide.
That's really interesting. I've never experienced sleep paralysis.
It's scary as hell, okay?
Yeah.
But at that point, I had tons of them. But at the point with the wolf, I knew when it was happening what I was experiencing. Because I remember, like, at that point, I like woke up and I'm like, and I just stared at it. Like, I'm not like I'm scared. I'm just like, okay, please be over, please be over. And then it goes away. And dude, it's creepy. But I got to a point where I was able to deal with it. But I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember a time experiencing it in this house. I don't know how to explain things.
Well, here's the thing.
You know what I mean?
Here's the thing. I've never experienced it, and I'm sure a lot of people out there haven't, but there's also a lot of people that have. So that kind of makes you think, what causes it? And if you're saying you've never experienced it here, maybe it actually is an entity in your house.
I don't know.
I want to have an episode on, like, supernatural experiences.
And I got some stories about this house.
Couple. Yeah.
And not that I've experienced... I'm a big skeptic. Not that I've experienced seeing anything here, but there's been a few times where something weird has happened. I was like,
yeah.
Let me call up my pops. See if he can talk me through it.
I feel you.
So I was really scared about the whole seeing things in my sleep right as I woke up. And then when I spoke to my dad about it, he's like, oh, that's just sleep paralysis. At the time, he was taking some psychology, and I guess they were going over memories and sleeping and what dreams were. And so it was a known phenomenon, you know, where people had experienced that. But it was news to me, man. It scared the crap out of me.
I kind of want to, but also at the same time, I don't.
Let me tell you, no. As creepy as it was when I first experienced it, I kind of would like to experience it again because it's a weird moment where, you know, when you watch a scary movie and you want to be scared, it's a weird moment where you're like literally creeped out. Like it's not, oh, I just watched a scary movie and I don't want to walk to the bathroom. It's like you are witnessing the very thing that you're scared of, but you're awake and you realize that you're awake. You're just your body hasn't caught up yet.
So going back to simulation, what if like they're pausing your game while they're like standing there watching you? Like I don't know. It's kind of weird. I've never experienced. Sorry.
Until I explain to everybody exactly the simulation idea, they're all gonna think we're just crackpots.
I know. Well, I've never experienced that, and I've never experienced lucid dreaming or anything like that. The only thing I have experienced is like fever dreams. Have you ever had a fever dream? So the best way I can describe it is like when you're sick, but I sometimes have them when I'm not sick. But it's always the same dream for me, and I don't know what it's like for other people, but I always have this dream when I have a fever that I'm this little kid. And it started when I was a little kid, like 7 years old. So I'm always 7 years old. But I'm standing in a football field, like at the Super Bowl. And there's like 4 million people around in the stadiums, like watching me. And this one coach, it's me and one coach on the field. And he comes up to me and he's yelling at me. He's like, you have to make this play. You have to get this touchdown. And he's got a mic and it's projecting to everybody. And I'm like, so scared, and he's just yelling at me. But I have that. It's like reoccurring. I don't know if that. Like, I don't know what that is.
How weird is that? And reoccurring dreams. And that's the problem with my memory is there's so many times where I'm like, I've dreamed this before. I wake up and I go, this isn't the first time I've dreamed this. I've dreamt this before. But then I can't remember. And then 10 minutes later, I'm like, what did I even dream? You know?
Like dream deja vu, which deja vu is another thing that's so...
Dude, there's so many... Lucid dreaming. I've never been able to lucid dream. In fact, I would say it was the opposite. Sometimes... I've never recognized that I was in a dream, but there are many times... And you know how people talk about they would fall in their dreams? The types of recurring dreams that I'd have where I'd wake up like... There's a few times I woke up gasping for breath, actually. When I was just doing that just now, I didn't mean that I would wake up like gasping for breath, but it was like kind of like wake up. But I have woke up a few times gasping for breath, and I got scared. I was like, what if I stopped breathing and died in my sleep?
That's creepy.
No, my dreams usually involve I'm getting into a fight, and every time I go to punch, my arms don't do anything. Like, it just like falls short. I can't even hit the person. I have dreams like that. Or also I'll have dreams where... I just forgot. Oh, where like I'm running. Imagine like this kind of flat area, like grassy field, and I'm running, and then I like maybe there's a little bump, and so I kind of hop over it, but I don't go back down to the ground. I just keep going up and up, and then I go, oh my god! At any point, I'm gonna fall back down, and I'm going to die.
Dude,
it's weird. There's something in my head. I must be afraid that I'm not gonna be adequate, or I can't do something.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I almost want to bring like a dream interpreter. Or like a psychologist on.
But they're probably full of shit. I mean, come on.
Are they? I don't know. We don't know much about them.
We don't know, I guess.
The past 2 weird dreams I've had the past 2 or 3 nights have been weird, and I almost don't even want to talk about them, but they involved me like taking someone's life, and it was so weird, and it felt so bad, and like...
The problem with interpreting is you can interpret, right? But the problem is it cannot be a blanket statement for everyone. Like, nothing can mean the same for everybody because everybody has their own opinion of what something means.
But I'm sure they have data to show, like, similarities between people who have similar dreams, you know. I don't know.
I don't know. I think people are impressionable, and so it's almost an impossible thing to study.
You're probably right.
But I almost believe life is a dream, and I feel like there's nothing to prove that it's not. The first time I started experiencing that, I didn't think life was exactly real. This is going to sound funny, but Assassin's Creed. The first time I experienced the idea that everything could just be made, not necessarily a conspiracy by people to make you believe certain things, but this idea that what you see may not be exactly what it is. The idea of how you perceive what images are. You think, oh, well, I've got 5 senses and I can touch it, but we assume everything that we feel and everything we do is what we see and what we observe. But there's nothing that can, and maybe it sounds stupid to say, but you can never know. Like, you don't know if you're dreaming. What I mean is, I started getting the seeds of doubt.
Yeah.
When I played that game. And then when I watched the movie Inception, it really hit me because it was this idea that you could have dreams within a dreams, and then this one quote, I think it was De Niro said, he goes, you don't realize how odd your dream is until you wake up. Like, so everything we experience, how weird is it that plants and materials broke down, turn into a liquid, we take that, refine it, put it into a machine, and it makes things move? Or how about when you have mass, it all of a sudden has this attraction. Like, literally everything that takes up space and has a mass attracts something else. Like, right now, we have an attraction toward each other. Now, we cannot feel it because the Earth has a greater attraction that we feel, so that we're not feeling each other. But in, like, a vacuum of space, we have an attraction to each other. So, how weird is that? Doesn't that sound ridiculous? Or how about the fact that the faster you go, the smaller you get? That just sounds like make-believe science.
Yeah.
People talk about wormholes and traveling thousands of light years. I mean, everything just sounds kind of make-believe to me. And it wasn't until that movie came that I'm like, yeah, you never know if this life is real or not. To me, like, to Sable, it kind of freaks her out thinking that. To me, it almost makes me feel better. If this life was fake and was a simulation, that actually puts me at ease. I'm not afraid of death at that point.
I don't know though. What happens after the simulation ends?
I don't know, but what happens? You
can still be in a simulation and be an AI or whatever.
You can be, and that's what the idea of
afraid of your mortality, I guess.
Well, that's what the idea of Inception was.
Yeah.
The guy, he was getting caught in a loop. His wife kills herself because she's like, we're in a dream, and he's like, no, we're not in a dream. We're in real life. But how do you prove that? And so they had like little safeguards, and he had like a little like top that he would spin. And at the end of the movie, it's just spinning, and you almost think it like wavers, but then it cuts out. And
so
like,
remind me, if it wavers, it's a dream?
If it falls, it's a dream.
Okay.
Because it reacts to...
God, what a great movie. Christopher Nolan.
It reacts to reality, and our reality is like gravity.
Yeah.
And, you know, but the other thing is, the problem with it is that everything we assume is true, it could just be fanciful. It could just be fake, but you wouldn't know it until you woke up.
But also, in your dreams, are you able to come up with the idea that you're in a dream?
No, I've never been able to lucid
dream.
I've never become aware.
If we were in a dream, isn't that what we're doing right now, is being like aware that we're dreaming?
No, because we don't know it.
Oh.
Like if I said I know I'm in a dream,
yeah,
then that'd be me being aware. No, I'm going.
We're
I believe it is, but I have no idea. Or if we're in a coma, we don't know what people in comas experience.
Yeah,
we don't know. We just don't know anything, and I think that's the problem. I think too many people scoff at ideas like this. Like, that's stupid. Of course this is real, you know. But it's like me. I literally believe anything possible. If I believe that there's an entity that can create anything, then why can't you believe that maybe this isn't? I mean, if heaven is real, if hell is real, couldn't there be another existence? Like, to me, it makes me feel better to think this is a dream, because you'll live out your whole life, and there's going to be something after it, because there's always something after a dream.
Yeah.
But if there's no God, your existence is going to be nothing.
I used to have like existential crises about that all the time.
Yeah, like it'll be the exact same thing before you were alive. But memory, dude, this is blowing my mind right now, because I've almost got... Dude, it's going to make me have a panic attack. I don't know. But I'm not saying I don't believe in God. I mean, I have this firm belief that anything is possible. I don't necessarily go one way or the other. I like to believe that there's someone out there that really truly cares about you, and it's just letting you figure things out on your own. But at the same time, I don't know. I think I would... Do you remember watching the ending of Futurama, how they explained what God was?
No, I loved Futurama. I don't remember the ending of it, though.
I don't remember if this was the exact ending. I remember I cried at the ending of Futurama.
Yeah.
They go into like a time loop and experience their life together again. But they explain God as being like this energy force, not being a specific looking being that, you know, is something, but the universe itself being a God. Because we came from it. If energy was itself God, then when we were made in his image, we're just energy. Because this is a gateway into what I want to talk about also, was evolution. People get the wrong idea when they hear the word evolution, because I remember when I was young being in church and hearing about how evil it was for schools to try to teach us evolution.
Right. Well, why can't you believe in both? Like, why can't evolution be God's...
Why can't it be both? But also, people don't understand what the real idea of evolution is. It's not that monkeys became man. It was the idea of observable traits getting passed on. It's like blue eyes did not used to exist. The idea of evolution is your genes are constantly replicating, your DNA is constantly replicating, and there's going to be a glitch. There's going to be something that gets messed up. And the idea is, if it gets messed up, but you procreate, that gene doesn't die out, it continues on. And there's a possibility that itself gets replicated. And then it's possible that it gets replicated again. And then all of a sudden, we got people with blue eyes everywhere. Same with... so originally, it was supposed to be, I think, everybody was supposed to have brown eyes. And then the idea is, maybe in a sea of brown eyes, 100 brown-eyed people, you got one person that's got blue eyes, and someone's like, hey, that's kind of attractive, and so they mate, and they have the possibility of passing it on. If they pass it on, boom, you got two people with blue eyes, and it's just how traits get passed on that weren't originally meant to be. I think think red hair was another one. I one time did a paper on this for biology, but it was like we think of evolution as this large scale animals in a generation growing their necks out long so they can reach the top of trees, and it's not exactly how it is. It was originally with the idea that things tend to like drift away naturally just because there's different traits, and those traits get passed on by when they procreate.
Right.
I don't know. I think so many people get the wrong idea about evolution. I think there's two beliefs that we put to it, but one of them is provable. But when people hear that it's provable, they think that you're talking about, yeah, we came from monkeys and God's not real. I don't believe that at all. I truly believe that science and God can go together.
Exactly. I think so too.
I don't mean like God is just in a specific. I just mean God is in. I believe there can be something that made us without saying, like when people talk about the history of the Earth, how the Earth is only 7,000 years old, so anything saying that the Earth is older than that is false and going against God. I'm like, well, if God's infinity, then what is 7,000 years to him, and who's measuring that? Like, what if one day to God is 7,000 years? I'm going to go on to, like, when Carl Sagan, like a great scientist about astronomer. He's an astronomer, and he tried to put in terms of the universe and the existence of everything in the course of 1 year, and he tried to break down what we believe we know into 1 year. Let me pull it up. Oh, the other thing is, so we go over the evolution. Another thing is, if we can prove that things get passed on certain ways, and we can see history of how people used to be shorter or bigger or something like that, why do we assume that we are the final bit? Why do we assume that we're like the final product of everything? Like,
yeah.
Too many times people, like if you were to watch a sci-fi movie and it's set in thousands of years later and people look exactly the same, it's like, what really got me thinking about it was this video. It's supposed to be from Area 51, and it was them interviewing an alien.
I've seen that video.
Yeah. And he's like, "Where are you from?" And this alien goes, "Earth." And it's like, well, it's kind of cool. He's like, "What? You said that you came thousands of light years away to come here." He's like, "To travel in time is to travel through space." The idea is that some cataclysm happened that changed their form. So that was what humans were in, I don't know, 1,000 years. So I don't know. Too many times people just get stuck on this idea that this is the image that God chose for us. But if evolution does happen, couldn't it have been that we were originally created to look differently, and that we've just been changing by getting together and mingling, and traits getting passed on that weren't supposed to be?
That brings to mind the line in the Bible that says we were created in God's image. What if God is ever changing?
Well, yeah. I don't know. Are we getting on the border of blasphemous?
Well, anything we're talking about is technically blasphemous. I almost feel like to the I don't know. I have to pee. Can we take a break?
Go pee. I'm gonna.
We can cut this out. Yeah. I'm gonna go pee, and we'll restart.
Okay. I'm gonna stand just like this. We had a short restroom break.
We're back now.
Well, Daniel had a restroom break.
Not both of us together.
No. I mean...
Well, no.
No. One last thing that I wanted to speak on with the evolution idea is, here is why I believe that there's just such a small amount that we know about. Carl Sagan, huge astronomer. He's known exclusively... Like, he helped with the... oh crap! What was the probe that they sent out to go to make contact with other life?
You're asking the wrong person. I don't know.
Gemini.
Gemini.
Was it a Gemini?
Good. Sounds good.
Anyways, he was a part of a team that helped decide what was going to be put on the gold record that was going to be playing for. Anyways, so he tried to put down existence of the universe into a single calendar year. So January 1st, minute 1, the Big Bang happens.
Okay.
We don't even know if there was a Big Bang. We don't know. But going off what we believe happened, Big Bang happens in January. Again, a spontaneous moment where everything comes into being. Why could that not be something going, let there be light? You know, like, beginning.
That's what I'm saying.
I believe things can coincide. Yeah. Anyways, not like I'm ascribing to any one thing, but so it goes from January, February, nothing, March, nothing, April, nothing, May, nothing. Or May, the Milky Way forms. We go all the way to December. December 31st is when humans first make appearance. So we almost go this entire length of the year. On the very last day of the year is when we appear. But it's not even the last day of the year. It's 11:58 p.m. It's 2 minutes away from midnight.
Really?
This doesn't sound very interesting, except for let me read it one more time. The 13.7 billion year lifetime of the universe that we believe every second is 434 years. So 11:58 humans first appear. 11:59 all Neanderthals die out, and it's just regular humans left. Columbus arrives in America 1 second before midnight. Our modern history is supposed to have only begun like 3 seconds ago, is what the idea is.
If the whole year is a calendar year.
If we shrunk everything down into 1 year.
Wow.
But the idea is you got 1 year, Big Bang, this is the end. Of this end, there's only like that much that we even have recorded history of. And it's like we're going to assume that we know everything in between.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just I don't even know how I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know how anybody can focus on one thing and just go, this is a fact.
Yeah.
How science is just everything is a fact. Well, not everything is a fact, but until it's proven wrong, it's right.
Or it's at least believed to be
like
right.
What is theory still or is gravity still a theory? I mean, at what point did that gravity become law? And that's what I just mean is like people talk about things as if they've always been and they know, but they have no idea. Another thing is people talk about like don't believe everything you read on the internet because people used to believe the earth was flat. It's actually kind of a common misconception that people used to believe the earth was flat. It was back in like, I don't know, just barely after Christ died, that this one guy went out and because of shapes on the ground determined that the earth was actually round. And sailors back in the day, like a long time ago, they were able to see kind of a curvature on the sea, so they also believed that the shape that they're on must be circular in some way. So it's not like people actually believed the earth was flat. The ones who did, it wasn't like it was a common thing around them. We did believe we were what is it called when the earth is the center of the universe? I don't remember what it's called. I know that we're heliocentric, but people believe it was I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not even going to act like I know. Geocentric,
so
maybe?
The people who back in the day thought we were a flat earth are just like today's modern flat earthers. They were a minority.
Yeah. It wasn't like this huge thing because I don't remember his name. I think it actually started with the E. But I remember reading in my math book when I was in school, or my college algebra book. It was this guy, back in the day, he had like he set up like a hole in the ground in, I don't know, Egypt, somewhere in the Middle East, and then he had like another spot set in Europe. And by going between the two, he was able to determine that the Earth was round. They were able to get within, several hundred kilometers. They got pretty precise without calculators how big the diameter of the Earth was, or like the circumference.
Yeah.
They were able to do that 2,000 years ago, and we can't even figure out how to make a baked cake. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just there's just so much that people assume that we know that we don't.
Yeah, that also brings to mind like all the knowledge we could have forgotten over time. Like,
yeah. I mean, we talked about, I think the last one, it was like how many books of the Bible are now out of the current Bible. People don't. Dude, I'm almost like too deep right now to even be able to think.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was the cosmic year. By the way, I got that from the Cosmos, A Space-Time Odyssey. Carl Sagan came up with that cosmic. Well, I don't know if he came up with it, but he popularized it.
Mm-hmm.
And that started making me think about destiny. My mom mentioned something, and so I started talking about my my boss I used to have at my other workplace, who actually went to Yale. He went to Yale for well, it wasn't a crime he had yet committed, but it was the idea that he was trying to get with a minor. It was an undercover agent that had seduced him, or he was trying to seduce her. I'm kind of iffy on that subject, but he's currently serving time for it. But the idea of entrapment, or trying to catch individuals before they commit the actual crime, and calling the intent to commit a crime
in itself. But
perverts that try to prey on young children, yeah, cut their nuts off, throw them in jail. But the thing is like, at what point do you say that there's no turning back? At what point could he have decided not to do what he was doing?
So you're saying, like, is it a crime to plan to commit a crime?
Oh, that is. It's called conspiracy.
Right.
That the intent. But a great movie about this with Keanu Reeves is Minority Report.
Oh.
Have you ever seen it?
I've seen it, but it's been a long time.
It's this idea that in the future we have the ability. We've got, well, it was kind of farcical in that, but it was this idea that we had a way to predict the future. Like these three beings were able to see the future, and so they would foretell when somebody was going to go do something like murder their wife that was cheating on them.
Mm-hmm.
And so they would send this guy out to go stop them. They had like a police force that would stop future crimes. But the idea of the movie is, at what point are you saying that there's...
Hold on. Doesn't that have Tom Cruise in it?
Is it Tom Cruise?
I think it's Tom Cruise.
I thought it was Keanu Reeves.
I can Google it really quick.
Google it, because now you're starting to make me question my memory, right? It probably was Tom Cruise.
I just spelled Minority.
Where was Keanu Reeves in? If I find out...
It is Tom Cruise. I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. That's still the premise of it.
I wish it was Keanu Reeves.
Wait, I think Keanu Reeves is in Constantine.
Constantine? I can Google it.
If it's Tom Cruise again, I'm going to be pissed.
It's Keanu Reeves.
Okay, I don't know. I think it's Minority Report that I'm thinking of, though. Okay, so Tom Cruise. But it's this police force that go to prevent these future crimes because they know, like, 100% these people are going to do it.
They're going to commit them.
But at the course of the movie, it's like the idea of, at what point do we say that people don't have the freedom to make a different choice before they do something? And that's why I started getting on, is kind of like, do we really have a choice? And so you think of, you have a choice, and you know whatever you choose is going to be a different path. But what if all along you were going to do the exact same thing, no matter what?
Like destiny.
Yeah, I'm actually starting to become like the firm believer that there's destiny. It's like so many different choices you can make still put you in the same situation.
What do you think, you can change your destiny at all?
I honestly don't think you can change your destiny. That makes it destiny. If you change your destiny, then it was never your destiny.
Right.
Or it was your destiny to try to change your destiny.
Right. Well, what if... So you think we were destined to always make a podcast? Like, what if we had made one decision along the way that didn't lead to this happening? Like,
but I believe that we were always going to make a decision.
No matter what. Okay.
And that is the belief I'm taking. Yeah, I'm starting to really believe that. And it's not... One, we believe that we were being programmed. Then we were always going to do what we're doing. Two, if there's a God who knows all, sees all, I truly believe that he already, I guess, really free will. I don't know. It's complex. I don't know how I feel, except for the fact I believe that no matter what, you were going to do what you were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. The movie touched on it really good. It was like, what point do we throw away the idea that someone can decide what they're about to do? Do we wait until somebody commits a heinous crime to say, you committed this crime? I don't know. And that brings me into morals, dude.
Yeah.
Like, if my boss, my old boss, if my old boss had lived in Japan, he would not be in jail right now. The age of consent in Japan is 13 years old. The age of consent in Nigeria is 11 years old. Morals, dude.
Isn't that a little messed up though? Like,
well, you think that because of where you grew up,
right?
But the people there think that's totally normal.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The reason it's crazy to us is, well, I don't know about age of consent, but the reason it's so weird to us is the culture we have. Whether people like it or not, most of our laws came on the morals of the Bible. Whether you agree with it or not, that's where most of our laws are a set of agreed morals. Like, you can't go out and murder someone. I mean, that's an agreed moral, but that's not everywhere. It's almost a universal thing, but it's not exactly.
You can murder people in some places?
Yeah, it's not like a heinous thing. Or like Middle East, if you steal. Like, do you remember when I was telling you about during Ramadan in Kuwait, there was a guy who was caught smoking in public, and the judge ordered to have his cigarettes put out on his tongue or his lips or something like that?
No, I don't remember that.
To me, that's like ridiculous, okay? But we're also not like a theocracy.
Yeah.
We don't have religion as our state or like our governing body. But over there, their morals say that's completely okay. Now, who's to decide? That's the problem with morals, is they're so made up.
Are they made up, or are they like
Well,
they are made up, but they're different in other places. I don't know. I don't think
that's why I say they're made up.
Yeah.
Because if they're different in other places, then who decides it? Well, a group of people get together and say, we're going to form this society, and this is what we're going to call. But like in France, when I think the age of consent was 15, and there's these guys that were wanting to reduce it to, I think, 12 or 13. And so at what point do you say, this will be our now accepted moral? Abortion. Big thing. A long time ago, abhorred. But now there's tons of people pushing for it because they believe it's right, whatever you believe. But what I mean is, morals are constantly shifting, and I'm just one person could be in jail for the same thing here, but in the next country it's not. Yeah,
anywhere else.
I mean, if weed, how many people are in jail because of weed? But now it's becoming a legal thing.
Well, now that's interesting you bring that up, because now it's not even other countries, it's other states. Like California, recreational weed is legal. It's insane.
Now, how ridiculous is it that on a national level it's still illegal?
Yeah, I know.
That if a federal law enforcement sees it, they can still get you. You can still go to prison for it. But state level, they're not going to do anything.
Yeah, it's insane.
How messed up is that?
Yeah.
That seems like a little ridiculous, huh? I don't know. But morals, I don't know how to explain it, man. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I guess it's kind of cut and dry.
I think we're tackling really big topics
too fast.
Well, no, it's not. I think everyone should think about these things, but I don't think anyone really has the sole answer. It's like kind of like
well, there's not an answer.
There's a gray area. Yeah.
It's just like people assume how they grew up is how things should be, but that's not how things are. Like,
and how do you explain that to someone? Like, people, you're right. People who grew up a certain way think that's the way life is, and then people who grew up like somewhere else, it's like, no, that's not how life is. How do you, like, when those two people clash? Like,
when I worked at Brick Oven, and there was a kid there, and he was talking about something being morally wrong, and I'm like, no, I don't think so. He's like, yeah, it is. I'm like, well, who are you to decide what my morals are? You know, I don't think it's wrong if somebody kills somebody else, depending on the situation. Like, a lot of people talk about thou shalt not kill in the Bible, but it's actually thou shalt not murder. The idea is you don't kill somebody without unwarranted justice. You can't just go killing people. But if it was provoked, or if you're defending yourself, that's when I believe killing is appropriate. I believe in like that justice idea.
Well, we have laws for that, right? Like self-defense.
In a way.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody can break into my house and fall down and sue me. Somebody can break into my house and I feel threatened and I can shoot them, but I still have to prove that I felt threatened.
Right.
It's just, everything's a gray area. I heard a thing where this guy, I already mentioned this, sue me, but I think laws are messed up because morals are ever changing.
Right.
Our culture is ever changing.
So making a law that you have to abide by is kind of going against morals, or
no. Laws are agreed upon morals of the society.
Mm-hmm.
But morals are ever changing. Like, what was that law that we have here in the town? It's something about a specific law where you could like beat your wife on a certain day of the week or something.
What?
I don't know if it was a certain day of the week or like a certain length of stick. I don't know. We've got some ordinance like that.
That's insane.
It is a little insane, but you can't imagine doing that today.
Mm-hmm.
But 50 years ago, that wasn't so crazy.
Well, we used to be a dry county, and now we're not. You know, it's...
Pentecostals used to believe you couldn't use playing cards, you couldn't do all kinds of stuff, but...
Yeah, so beliefs are ever changing.
Beliefs are ever changing.
Evolving.
The idea with the religion is that it should stay strict, but that's why the Middle East seems like such a third world country almost, because...
Well, do you think religion is changing in America? Like, not just in the Middle East? Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's becoming more progressive almost.
Yeah, like, because there are more and more things are considered appropriate. Like,
yeah.
I mean, back in the day, the idea of having anyone gay
now there are churches embracing it. Yeah.
Which is the Christian thing to do.
Yeah, which I agree with wholeheartedly, but it's
but back
absurd.
In the day,
it's
crazy.
Absurd that before it wasn't okay.
But if we were born back in the day, we would not think it was okay.
Would we?
Probably
if we had
not.
Good morals.
Well, who's to say what your good morals are? You know what I mean?
It's what you're taught.
It's what you're taught.
Yeah.
Everything is based on society, and society is constantly changing. It's fluid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean...
Well, how does somebody break free of what they've been taught?
Well, it's just like... I'm a big believer in guns, but I know there's some in your family that are completely against it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has a lot to do with the people that they're around, their beliefs. How I believe is mainly about where I grew up, who I hang around with.
Mm-hmm.
It's just... Even on a smaller scale, our morals are different even like now. Because morally, I think I need to have a gun. Yeah. I think, forget a gun, I need to have any kind of thing that will protect my life if I feel a need. But other people, they don't understand my moral belief of that's my right.
Right.
I don't know, man. Morals are crazy.
They are.
They are crazy because there's no
agreed
flat board.
Yeah.
It's almost like a bar graph, you know. It's like, what's the morals here? Oh, what's the morals here? Nope.
In 1959, it was this. Now it's this.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't even know how to... I guess there's not really much more to describe on it because it's just... What is the word? Ambiguous?
I don't know what that means.
Ambiguous?
Ambiguous. That sounds like
I need a
the
third
right
Modelo.
word. Yeah.
What else do I have written down?
Hold on, we're getting a definition.
Here's the definition of ambiguous. Of language open to more than one interpretation, having a double meaning.
So ambiguous means language open to interpretation or having a double meaning.
I'm not necessarily believing that morals have a double meaning, but it's open to interpretation.
What was ambiguous? Like, what was it? Morals?
Morals.
Yeah. Morals are ambiguous. They're open to interpretation.
Open to interpretation. And
should they be? We should.
Well, that's like going to like, is sex gender and is gender sex? Is, do you define them as the same word as historically they have been, or are you separating the terms out to mean different things? Which is now what we're doing. As language is funny, man. I always thought, like, wouldn't it be cool if I created a language with music? Like if I just said, okay, the G string, first fret, that is going to be the letter A. And you could just string together a whole...
Well, Tolkien did it. He created a language. I mean, Elvish.
Well, that's different than what I'm talking about.
How so?
He did create a language, but I mean, like, I'm saying that language or spoken
What did you
language.
ever create a language like when you were a kid? Like, with your siblings or anything?
No, not like that. But that's kind of what I'm talking about. But I more like mean that just everything is just a series of sounds. Like, if I were to do something on the guitar and say, you know, second fret on G is going to be a B, third fret is a C, you could create you can create the alphabet on that.
Dude, if we had named this podcast, which we were talking about naming this podcast, the Table of Babel, this would be so fitting. But continue.
What I mean is just that people take for granted language. They take for granted any form of communication.
Yeah.
That literally communication is anything. If you can develop the word communicate. If you can develop a way to connect with somebody, we could share. I could play something on the guitar, and to somebody else it sounds like nothing, but to you, we've talked about it.
Right.
We know it's going to mean, hey, the horse will be here on Friday.
Yeah, that's what language is. It's like sign language wasn't always a thing, in modern history, but
we have American Sign Language, which means there's different sign languages out there.
How crazy is that? Why can't it be one?
Can you imagine?
Oh my God!
Can you imagine going out there to Japan and you're like speaking to somebody in sign language and someone else is like,
I don't fucking
understand what you're talking about
because they're speaking a different sign language.
And they're crazy. Martial arts is actually sign language in Japan.
Yeah.
They'll kick your ass just trying to tell you hi.
Yeah, dude.
I don't know. I have thought about trying to do that though, like transpose words into. Can we talk about? It just hit me, but the song I was playing for you a little bit ago in the car,
Oblivion.
I didn't get to. Yeah, the name of it is Oblivion, and I didn't get to tell you, but I love the '80s style futuristic sound. You know, when they started using synthesizers a lot, but I'm not happy a lot. Okay, but I recently got a new position at the job I'm in. And I was driving to work, 6:30 in the morning. The song comes on, because my car will randomly just start up my USB drive. And the song came on, and the sun was coming up. It was bright orange, the whole of it. Dude, in that moment, it was weird. I got this overwhelming happiness feeling.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, it sounds depressing when you talk about not being happy very often, but that makes, when you do feel happy,
a lot better. It's like
you can't explain it.
If your whole year is cloudy, it makes the sunny days that much sunnier.
Yes,
I know what you're talking about. I've had those moments too.
The last podcast I talked about how I like to make people laugh because it makes me feel better.
Yeah.
But I know I just feel like I'm wasting my life away. But in that one moment, I'm like, man, this just feels right, and it felt good. And so now every time I think that's. I don't think Sable understands why I like some of the music I do. Like, I'll just go, I love this song. This is my new favorite song.
Because you just connect with it.
It hits me in a way, and I don't know how to explain it.
It won't hit anyone else that way. I've got moments like that too. It's a personal thing. Like, yeah.
I mentioned it, autism. Just that you could be reading a book.
It can bring you to tears, dude. There's moments.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it hits you, and you go, like, this feels good.
And I've had moments like that too. It's like, you'll never share that with anybody. Like nobody else will ever see that. But you see the world in such a way in those moments that it's like you understand it. You understand things make sense. Clarity.
Yeah, clarity.
Exactly. I know what you're talking about. I had one today because it was a cloudy day where we live today, and there was a slight precipitation. It was raining, and I was in a really wooded part of where we are. And it was just it was beautiful. It was crazy, and no one else will share that with you, but that's okay because that's yours,
Did you know that word is autism?
Autism. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy that there must be enough people that feel it that became a word.
Yeah.
And that's what they called it.
I'm sure everybody
because it's a feeling of awe. It's like this complete and utter you're taken aback.
Yeah.
And you're just put oh my God, everything is. It's like everything. All the colors feel right. Everything. I mean, the air smells.
When I have those moments, I want to capture it and I want other people to feel it, but I've recently come to terms with no one else will ever see it the way I do. And
that specific moment, but they will feel those things.
Yeah, they will. Everyone has autism, I think. That's why it's a thing. But I don't think everyone will realize it or everyone will see it for what it is.
I mean, it took me, I don't know how many years it took me of feeling that every so often to go, I'm going to try to even figure out if that's a real thing. Yeah. Does anybody else experience this?
I think everyone does. I hope everyone does. I don't know.
I think they do. Yeah. And I would say the good part about it is that no matter what you feel, you're never the only person that's ever felt it.
That's what the universe is, I think. That's when we're all the same. Hey, on that note, we're going to take another bathroom break.
Oh, my God.
If we had a sponsor, this is where we would cut to a pre-recorded commercial for that sponsor, but we don't. So hit us up, and you could be in this segment.
I'm going to go ahead and do a pre-recording of a sponsor.
Okay, go ahead.
Hey, guys. Have you tried Jamie's local flavors lately? How about their...
Sponsor.
I can always dream. Hey, guys. Have you ever tried Jamie's local flavor lately? Try their smoked pork. Or how about their smoked chicken? It's delectable. Looking good. They also have beer, which is what I'm currently out of and need another one. Or have you tried their Woo Pig Witch? Delicious. You know, they've got tater skins too. It's cheese, bacon, sliced green onions, with a nice side of homemade ranch and sour cream. That's what I get every time I go. It's worth it. What else do I get? Oh yeah, I get their cordon bleu. They just brought it back. Hell yeah, they brought it back. I honestly don't get a whole lot of different things there, but every time I try something new, I enjoy it. Try them out. Hey, Jamie's, this one's free on us. Okay, we're back. I just want to say, don't look at Daniel's hair.
Yep.
I will still say, you look fly. You look dope.
You look good too.
Well, I didn't put anything in my hair today. I just let
that makes it even better.
I let the wind do what it may, and the natural drying of hair. I hate that I do that. I was watching the first one, and I go a lot.
Yeah, I picked up on. It's because our mics aren't $500.
I'm trying not to though. In this one, I'm really trying not to. The last thing I want to talk about was Ruby Ridge and Waco.
Right.
I wrote Waco when I meant Ruby Ridge, but then I found out later that Waco is connected with Ruby Ridge. Okay, so you know the story of Ruby Ridge. Brendan, I think I already asked you. You do not. I would say a lot of younger people don't know the story of Ruby Ridge. And it was the idea, not the idea. The story is that there's this guy named Randy Weaver back in 1992. Yes, that's true. Back in 1992, who was a part of like the Aryan Nation or some kind of white supremacy group, and he sold some sawed-off shotguns to an undercover ATF agent. They tried to flip him to go. Did I just smack again? They tried to flip him to basically spy on the Aryan Nation. He refused, so they gave him a court date and indicted him for illegal weapons, whatever. He never went to his trial, and so the U.S. Marshals were getting involved in scoping out of his land. They knew he was stockpiling weapons. His family all they were trying to do was live off the grid. They had moved into a cabin that they had built and all kinds of stuff. No electricity, no running water. 3 children. Wait, actually, I think it was 4 children. There were 4 children and 2 adults. Anyways, they tried to send an undercover agent or U.S. Marshal to kind of like coerce Randy to give up, and kind of in the midst of it all, I don't remember how it went down. I didn't read it that well, but Randy Weaver, his friend Kevin Harris, his little 14-year-old boy Sammy, I think his name is
Simon. I don't know.
I think it's with an S. I don't know if it was Simon. It's something with an S. I think it was Sammy or Samuel. It might have been Samuel. I just smacked again. And we'll call him Samuel. 14-year-old Samuel and several of their dogs started chasing these U.S. Marshals off the property. In the midst of it, the undercover marshal got killed. The little 14-year-old boy, he got killed. One of the dogs got killed. That was on the first day of what becomes an 11-day siege on these people's property. The second day, sniper teams get brought in, and Randy Weaver, Kevin Harris, and one of the 16-year-old daughters are walking to the shed where they put the little boy's body. In the midst of it, one of the snipers shoot Kevin Harris in the arm, so they start retreating to the house. Vicky, which is Randy Weaver's wife, opens the door. Kevin Harris is kind of in the doorway. Sniper shoots at Kevin Harris, hits him again, but the bullet actually pierces Vicky's head, kills her on the spot. Her baby, she was holding her baby, but apparently she lived. I guess it was 9 more days of the siege, and they were during the whole time trying to talk Randy Weaver and Kevin Harris to kind of like at least give the body over so that they weren't in the same house with the body. I don't know, really messed up situation. After they end up giving up, Randy Weaver ends up being acquitted of all charges except for his failure to appear in court the original time. So so he goes to jail for 18 months, and he gets a $10,000 fine. I believe Kevin Harris. I don't remember if he went to jail or what. I know he was arrested. I don't exactly remember how Kevin Harris went down. Later on, the family eventually sues for $200 million. The federal government settles. Each remaining daughter gets $1 million, so there's $3 million, and then Randy Weaver gets some sum, but it was less than $1 million.
$375,000.
It was a lot less than $1 million. They originally went for $200 million, went down to 3 point something million. Kevin Harris gets a small amount of money as well, and a DOJ, a Department of Justice official, said anonymously, I believe it was to the Washington Post or the Wall Street Journal, I don't remember which one it was, that he believes if the trial had gone to court, that they would have won. The sniper who had shot Kevin Harris and killed Vicky was originally charged with manslaughter. Then a judge in 1997 or 98 ruled that an officer could not be indicted on a charge for his actions in the line of duty, which in 2000 that was reversed, but they never went after him again. Anyways, that story, coupled with the idea of how horrible our government handled that situation, and the situation with Waco, which is another siege situation where my dad said it was like 30 to 40 children were killed. They used some kind of a gas on them that reacted with their body, and they convulsed so violently that they broke their bones, and they died pretty terrible deaths. Coupled with that is what inspired the Oklahoma City bombings, which was the worst terroristic attack on U.S. soil until 9/11. Anyways, long story short, I don't remember what brought me to think about. I don't even know what brought me to think about Ruby Ridge, but I think my dad said something about this happened in Iowa, Naples something.
Yes, Naples, Idaho.
My dad mentioned something about Randy Weaver actually tried to move near Bergman, and it sounds so far-fetched, but if he was a part of the white supremacy group,
it would make sense.
It would make sense to try to come near here. Let me see if I had anything. I don't know why I started talking about it. It was just something that I wanted to mention. Just something that you don't hear about. Maybe it was. You know what? Should we get political in this last little bit?
Do you want to? Go ahead.
I kind of do. The idea of people acting like governments can't get tyrannical.
Mm-hmm.
So why do you need the right to bear arms?
Mm-hmm.
The story might be a little bit more complex than what we're talking about, but not much more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Vicky had a gun in her hand, but I knew she had a child in her hand. I knew that the sniper was indicted originally for manslaughter because it was ruled unjustified in his killing. I know a little 14-year-old boy died, and I think he probably had a gun. And that incident really led to reform in how U.S. Marshals and FBI agents handled things. But the idea is, and with Waco, how that was handled, government has recently, as far as only 20 years ago, shown that they are not flawless.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea that people acting like it's insane to think that governments might get out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is, what are all the amendments of our Bill of Rights? I don't know. What do we so we have the right to bear arms, freedom of speech, housing of soldiers, which was a strange one.
You can't house soldiers during wartime, or you're not obligated to, right?
Okay, no, that was good. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house. But that says in time of peace.
Oh, in time of peace.
But it means in time of war, they still can force you to give them housing. And then it was unreasonable search and seizures, protection of rights to life, liberty, and property. It goes on. Rights of accused persons in criminal cases, so they have due process and all kinds of stuff. The idea is people act like it's a joke, but what they don't understand is the people like myself who truly believe you have the basic right is not that it's about guns. It's about you just have the right to protect yourself no matter what. Mm-hmm. Be it guns, be it a freaking Abrams, sword. Be it a sword.
Yeah.
You know, in England they're talking about limiting the size of knives that you can have.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care necessarily about the gun. I care about the idea that you have the right to protect yourself, no matter what it is. Now, of course, eventually there's got to be some kind of stipulation. I think my stipulation is, I don't think any country in the world, any government should be allowed to have nukes.
Yeah.
Or chemical warfare, biological warfare. But I think that whatever your government has, you yourself should be able to have.
So we all need to have nukes in our backyard, basically.
Not exactly what I'm saying.
No, I'm just.
I say the government themselves shouldn't have nukes, but they're such. Here's what I mean right now, is that they are already powerful enough that you can't make your government give up nukes.
Yeah.
But they can make you give up your stuff.
Yep.
I heard today it was called the Nirvana fallacy, reversed Nirvana fallacy. The idea that there's an imbalance. So we have to make the imbalance worse. It's like your government's already stronger than you, so we'll go ahead and take your right to bear arms away. You know what I mean? Like, why do you need an AR-15? Why do you need a semi-automatic weapon? Well, almost every weapon's a semi-automatic weapon, except
unless you're talking about flintlock.
Unless you're talking about, which are not considered firearms.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
It's interesting.
Felons can have muzzleloaders.
Really?
People don't realize this.
That's how ineffective they are.
No, they're pretty powerful. People go muzzleloading, get turkeys and whatever.
Right, but against a tyrannical government.
Well, look, there was a letter, and I don't remember what it was called.
Yeah.
But it was basically, back in the day when they were using wooden boats, they were questioning whether cannons were considered your right to bear arms. And it was indeed found reasonable that cannons included the right to bear arms
because the government had them, right?
So cannons were allowed on boats, and I need to figure. I don't remember what the letter was called, but this idea that why do you need an AR-15? Why do you need high capacity rounds? Why do you need a bump stock? I don't need a bump stock, but you don't have the right to tell me I can't have one, or I don't need high capacity magazines. Currently, I'm not going to go kill a deer and shoot him 10 times, but is it your right to tell me, you know, we just had World War II where 6 million Jews were killed. You're going to tell me that the Nirvana, the reverse Nirvana fallacy was that you think that you have the sole right to bear arms regardless of what it is. Do you think I should be able to go buy a tank? And then it's like, well, if you don't think you should be able to go buy a tank, you think that you can stand up to your military's tank that is supposedly going to be tyrannical against you. So what does it matter?
Right.
Well, the idea is you don't think that there's an imbalance, and so go, why does it matter if you even have a gun, period? And by the way, I do think if you want a tank, you should be allowed to get one.
Yeah.
That might seem a little bit far-fetched, but I think whatever the military gets, if you got the money for a fighter jet, hell yeah, go get you a freaking fighter jet and invite me to come along with you.
Yeah.
Like, you have the right to protect yourself, and honestly, that's where the nuke idea came in, is because, was it under the Geneva Convention? Chemical warfare, nuclear weapons are kind of like, well, they're chemical weapons was like war crime.
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot about the Geneva Convention, but I don't want my government, and I don't want any other government to have nukes. I don't think that is reasonable weaponry. Okay. Chemical weapons, I don't think those are reasonable. I don't think biological warfare is reasonable. That's nothing that I want any government to have. So I don't think any single person should be able to have. I think your military should only use the stuff that an individual citizen would be able to use themselves. You know what I mean? If you want a freaking hand grenade, go get one. That sounds going to sound crazy to people, but I think you should be allowed to have one.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying there can't be some kind of regulation as far as when and how you're able to get them, but
as well as mental background checks, right? Like, I think we're going
to background checks are pretty. I mean, it's not just as easy as walking into a store and getting one,
right? But
it's not. People talk about I'm not going to get into loopholes or whatever like that. There's not a loophole. Just different provisions. But people will talk about, well, if you need a license to drive a car, then why don't you need a license? Beto O'Rourke had this, or no, Cory Booker had this idea that if you need a license to drive a car, then you should need a license to own and buy a gun. It's like, well, here's the funny thing. The Founding Fathers didn't say you had a constitutional right to have a horse.
Right.
They didn't say you had a constitutional right to have transportation. They did, however, say, we just fought a tyrannical government, so you have the constitutional right to fight for yourself, because back where we came from, you didn't have the right to keep yourself safe, and that's why we had to leave. And we just got done fighting a war because we didn't agree with paying taxes without representation. We didn't agree with tyranny. Okay, so that's where that came from. But that Second Amendment is kind of what keeps everybody safe with their other amendments.
Yeah.
So, like, if you believe freedom of speech is, people also use the idea that, well, freedom of speech is regulated. Like, actually, no, it's not. People talk about libel and slander or, and stuff like that. Well, the reason libel and slander are not regulating your freedom of speech is because they're not regulating that you're not able to say those things. They're regulating that what you're saying is threatening or trying to cause harm. Threats of violence, calls to action are illegal because they're not seen as an individual's right, because you're impeding somebody else's rights.
Right.
If you say something that is hurtful but is also true and provable, it is not seen as slander. Slander is only when you're telling a lie about something.
It's a falsity.
And you only say falsities if you're trying to cause some kind of harm or defamation of character.
Right.
The idea with, like, when people talk about being able to shout fire in a movie theater, you're able to say fire in a movie theater and shout it if there's a fire. So it's not that you can't say these things, it's just your intent behind them. So yeah, I think anybody should be allowed to say anything, and the only way to make sure people can say whatever they want is if your government goes, we can't be tyrannical because we don't know how many guns. I don't believe in gun registries, because that just gives a database of everybody that's got a gun.
Right.
I heard something today that Switzerland was able to stay neutral in World War II because per capita they had like the most armed citizens during World War II. Yeah.
Wow.
That's how they're able to stay neutral, is because we're not going to go mess with them.
Because they're not going to get drafted, or what?
Not drafted. It's not about a draft. It was the idea of when you have. It's like why we didn't exactly get invaded. Oh, we got attacked, but we weren't invaded. Like our soil wasn't breached.
Right.
And it was the idea of that we have a heavily armed population.
Right. I understand.
And it's not just a defense against our own government. I do believe that we're getting to a point where our governments may not become tyrannical anymore. Like, I believe society is reaching a point where that might stop to be a case. But I'm sure back in the day, they were thinking the same thing. We were just coming out of the roaring 20s, and then all of a sudden we got Jews dying. But it's also the idea of, do you believe China really is a threat? Because they're a real dictatorship. They got a real guy who's forcing people either out of political offices that don't agree with them. Well, he is forcing them out if they don't agree with them. I remember, was it Zhao Ming or Chow or President Xi? I don't remember his name. I was reading it in the Wall Street Journal when I still was subscribed to them, still getting paper copies. But I was reading about when he was trying to force his election when he was running again to make his term indefinite. That was recent, like in the past few years.
I saw this thing on a podcast I was watching the other day, and this man, Dan Crenshaw, he said, China thinks in 50-year terms, we think in 4-year terms. But
yeah, that's the thing. People just want to get elected because we're thinking they're only going to be around for 4 years. What does it matter? But I hate when people talk about, if you think governments cannot become tyrannical, all you have to do is look at other governments. And sure, you can say, well, that won't happen here. But you don't know what will happen here.
You don't know what will happen in 20 years.
If people think Trump is really the next Hitler, why do you want Trump to be having all the weapons?
Why do you want him to be in charge?
If you think that there's an unreasonable amount of people being killed by police hands, why do you want them to be the only people that have guns? It's like checks and balances.
Yeah.
If they thought that one person could have to be refrained to not abuse their power, then why do we need 3 different branches of the government? Because the idea is you need somebody to check somebody else in place. The guns might not be the actual check, but it's the idea that we have the ability to do that.
Right.
So yeah, my Mosin that I bought, it's not going to take down a tank. But it's the idea that 300 million armed Americans is better than how many people are in the military? Is it like? I think it's less than 4 million. I don't even think it's 3 million.
I couldn't tell you. But
let me pull it up real quick.
Okay.
But our military force is a very small amount compared to how many people. Let's see, how many active military? I hit .com. Let's see. Wow, that breaks it down by state. That's National Guard. I don't want to. This is weird. This isn't giving me the information I wanted at all. I wish there would be like a total. Why? I just looked this up the other day.
Hey Siri, how many people are in the U.S. military?
1.3 million.
Okay, I found this on the web for how many.
She didn't
people are in
even
the US
tell me.
military.
She pulled up
Check it
Google
out.
results.
Look, a total of 1.3 million active duty military and more than 800,000 reserve forces as of September 2017.
Okay.
That's less than 2 million, right? Or just barely above 2 million. See, 1.3 million would be 1,300,000.
Yes.
So another 800,000. So it's barely above 2 million.
Yeah.
We got 200 million or 300 million Americans, citizens. Yeah, my Mosin cannot take down a tank, but I would rather have the idea of 300 million armed, regulated militia to ward off.
Right.
Maybe possibility 2 million tyrannical government. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's my idea behind the right to bear arms.
I can get behind that, dude.
It's not. I don't believe that. It's not necessarily that I think you yourself should own a gun or anybody just themselves should own a gun, but I believe you have the right to use whatever means necessary to protect yourself. And if you want to go buy a Walther PPK, you go out there and buy you a Walther PPK,
Well,
which is exactly what I want to do.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not that everyone should. It's that those that want to have the right to pursue that option.
Yeah,
right?
you know what? And it's not that I disagree with someone's idea that it can be dangerous. It's just that I believe the alternative is more risky.
Mm-hmm.
Violent crimes are down like at an all-time low. Like it's ever decreasing since like the 80s or the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we're going to have more gun crime than any other country if we allow guns.
Mm-hmm.
But I would rather allow the gun crime, the possibility of the gun crime, than the alternative. It's like Australia. When I was looking up freedom of speech, they don't have it in their constitution or whatever. It's understood that they can say what they want, but if something becomes a question, it's up to the courts to decide if that's freedom of speech. Here, that's not the case. You have the right to say whatever. Or it's like, if you take away your right to keep your government in check, then there goes your speech. It's just a totally different culture here. And it's not, like, I'm not against the idea that socialism can work, but I'm against the idea of socialism being here.
Mm-hmm.
I believe this is like the only country founded on the idea we will not be socialist.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not against socialism. I'm against socialism being here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I didn't want to get to it. We weren't going to get into it.
It's necessary. You know what? If we don't have the conversation, who will?
Who will? I mean, the idea
lots
is...
of people, but...
lots of people. Hold on. Let me see here. Let me go back to that other tab.
All right.
Let me think another Bill of Rights that I think is super important. Yeah, I think the only rights that protect the other rights is our second right.
Mm-hmm.
And they thought it was so important that it's the second one that they came up with. The second one that they wrote.
Only after the first one.
Yeah, the first one is they already experienced. They weren't allowed to just say everything they wanted.
Right.
And what I love, we have the ability to talk about this.
Mm-hmm. We have the ability to do this podcast.
Yeah. I mean, if you went to Canada, you could probably say whatever you want, but you don't have the explicit right to do that.
Right.
If somebody wanted to stop you, they could. In Germany, I just saw a thing the other day where somebody was like, "You don't have freedom of speech," and she's like, "Yes, we do. I worked in German media," and he's like, "You just had somebody jailed for speech," and she's like, "No, he was jailed for hate speech," and I was like, "What do you think it is?" I mean, look. I think it's important to say anything about someone.
Who regulates our speech, right?
If you give... I know I'm going back to Trump.
Well, hold on. Let's make it clear. speech that incites violence is already regulated, right?
Already illegal.
Yes.
Already wrong.
Yes.
Any call to violence.
So we're all on the same page there.
Anything to intentionally harm somebody.
You should not be able to do that.
You're not able to do that. And some people currently are able to get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
There's examples every day where somebody's able to do it. It's actually very lax on what our laws are that they enforce. But anyways, my idea is, I don't think anyone should go out there and talk about someone's race or white supremacy is disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe you have the right to believe what you want. And as long as you're not making a call to action, the idea is that it's a slippery slope because saying these things can normalize it. And I believe it's completely true.
Yeah.
But I do not believe you give the government the right as to what you can say, because just like we were talking about morals, one government can say one thing's fine and the other one can say it's not. One group of people can say something's fine and the other one not. And what you have a problem is if you believe Trump is a dictator, you want Trump to dictate what you can say.
Exactly.
And you're looking at whether you want it or not, it's a possibility of another 4 years. So do you want him to dictate what you can say?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. People are already complaining about him. Have been complaining about him. Not saying anything on him or anything like that. It's just the idea of who does dictate what you can say if you regulate it. So like in Germany, I don't remember what the guy went to jail for. Some kind of hate speech. But I don't believe you should be jailed for any kind of speech except those that try to harm somebody. And that was a big enough issue to the people who founded this country that they thought, no, we need to protect your ability to say what you want. You know what? Number two, right? The right to protect that ability.
Yes.
And what was the other ones? That was amendment to housing of soldiers, because they experienced that. Unreasonable search and seizures. This is all of our rights go. And I think people have a problem with rights. You know, would I like free healthcare for everybody? Yeah. Well, the problem is when people talk about something as a right, not a privilege, it's fine for you to believe that. The problem is you have to amend something to make it your right. Our Constitution is the idea that whether it be God-given or just because you were born and the universe decided, just because you're a human, you have certain rights. And I'm sorry, but like in South Africa, I was reading, I don't remember the country, but they had to put in their constitution the right to water. Here's the deal. You don't have a right to anything. Just because you're born, you're a block of nothing, just cells together. And in our specific country agreed that you have these certain rights, inalienable. We can't take them away from you. We can't keep you from those rights. Just by being born, you have them. And I think the distinction is, if you want to change those rights, I don't know, man. I think it's dangerous. I think it's dangerous to try to change any of them. Because once you make it known that you can change one of them, well, then why not change the other?
Well, that's what history has shown. That's why we have the rights.
I mean, if you didn't have rights to search and seizures, like if you didn't have the right to have a warrant before you were searched and seized, somebody could just walk in here, just look for whatever they wanted to try to incriminate me.
Right.
Oh, your pistol's loaded, sitting there. Well, we don't want it to be sitting there like that. We make the laws. You know? No. What was another one? Protection of rights to life, liberty, and property. Let's see. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury. This gives you the right to a jury. Double jeopardy. We were talking about double jeopardy.
You can't be indicted of the same crime.
You cannot be charged for the same crime. Kevin Harris. Did I just die?
No, it's full.
Oh. Well,
we're going on this one only.
This one only. We'll make it short because we're almost done, right?
Yeah.
Well, Kevin Harris, he was originally charged with murder for the undercover marshal. I don't know the scenario in which the guy died, but he was acquitted of his charge, and then they tried to recharge him, but he got off because of double jeopardy.
Wasn't it the same for the U.S. Marshal, the sniper who shot?
They didn't state that. In my article I read, it wasn't even that reason that they did not try to indict him again. It was just they didn't try to bring charges, period. And it may be a case of double jeopardy or whatever, but... So that's your Fifth Amendment, is the double jeopardy or whatever. Rights of accused persons in criminal cases, rights in civil cases, excessive bail, fines and punishments forbidden. Excessive bail should not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. You know what? If you get rid of your Second Amendment, why not get rid of your Eighth Amendment? You know, the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, or reserved to the states respectively, or to the people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It is political, but it is topical.
It is.
It's been bugging me because I think it's important for people to understand that are against the idea of owning weapons is that I can't speak for every conservative, but I believe that it's your individual right to be able to protect yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Not everybody.
A tank, a little 22, whatever.
Well, not everybody should, but it's the idea and it's the principle that everybody who feels they want to has the right to pursue that. And I'm not against regulations on that kind of thing, but as an individual, you have that right to pursue it.
What does Ratatouille say? Anyone can cook?
Anyone can cook.
Not that anyone themselves can, but a cook can come from anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe every single person needs a gun. So we have restrictions on that already as far as mentally ill or whatever. But that provision is kept because the people that are safe, that are sane, can get those weapons. That's what scares me about red flag laws. I don't know what exactly is defined in them, but it seems kind of like people can abuse that, alert you to local law enforcement that you said something that they didn't like. I don't know what the situation is, but did you hear about the guy in New England who got killed?
No.
I think it was like a 66-year-old man or whatever. They try to get him on a red flag law up there because they already have provisions like that.
Really?
Yeah. I think they were trying to seize some of his weapons and he didn't want to give them up. I don't know what the whole story was. Maybe the guy was doing something dangerous. I don't know. But already we see a death. Don't know the situation. I don't know. But I don't believe... Dude, it's tough. It's an iffy subject. I never want to see anyone get killed.
No one has all the answers. All we can do is discuss it and open the conversation.
Yeah, open the conversation.
That's all we can do.
Look, and as long as we have guns...
people want to be hostile about it. But
they do.
There's no reason to be. You know, it's just a conversation. It's a dialogue.
Conversation, man.
Creating a dialogue is the first step.
Problem is everybody thinks that just because you believe you have the right to own guns, they think you think that guns are more important than somebody else's life. No, I never want to see anybody get killed. The thing in El Paso, it makes you want to vomit. Okay, in Dayton, it makes you want to vomit. But the problem is when people use the emotion. Like if you look, and gun crimes are actually on the low. When you look at Dayton and the guy used a .223, the .223 wasn't even developed. That was the whole project to design a .223, which is what the AR-15 will shoot. The whole idea was my dad was in the Army, and when they were training him, he said that they told him the purpose of the .223 was because they were trying to switch from killing to maiming. It wasn't even designed for ultimate killing. I think what I read was that the project was designed to find a better trajectory bullet, a survivability so that it would maim, and then piercing power so that it could still pierce. And I don't know, man. People want to talk about, I don't remember what the guy's name was. He was one of the young guys in the Democratic debate on this June 27th. I saw him. He was talking about banning semi-automatic weapons. And I was like, dude, do you not realize?
That's every weapon.
It's most of them.
Yeah.
Unless you're getting a single-action revolver and people want to talk about flintlock and muzzleloaders, they're not even considered firearms. They're not even... And I might say something that's wrong, and I hope somebody mentions it so I can learn from it, but I have looked into it a good amount. And I just think people don't know most of what they talk about when they want to get rid of guns.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's just starting a conversation, talking about it. It's taboo to talk about it. Almost, you know? And I don't think it should be that way.
Our YouTube career could already be killed before it started.
I know. It couldn't.
But I think I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would rather be free and talk about
cause,
it.
Yeah, I agree.
Wouldn't you rather, instead of making money, just hiding what you're really passionate about? Well,
that's not what I wanted to do this for anyway. It's just I like the dialogue. Yeah. I like the conversation.
I mean, you've always thought, and I guarantee you, me and you don't see the same way. Just like me and Brennan don't see the same way.
Not on every issue. But
Not on every issue, yeah. What's one thing you disagree with me? So we can just prove it.
Well, I won't drink milk past like a week, but I know you to keep milk.
Dude, I've got 3 cartons of milk in my fridge.
Yeah.
I don't remember which one. I got to smell every time.
Yeah, I won't even go near it if it's been in there like a week and a half. But I mean, we're all different people.
We're all different people, man.
Anyway, we're just...
it's another bad podcast.
Another bad podcast. Thank you guys, everybody who checked out the first one, and hopefully the second one, which should be up soon.
We're gonna, after this third one, we're gonna see the subscriber count go down.
Right, I know. But hopefully we'll see you guys in the next one. And thanks so much for tuning in.
Peace.
Peace.